Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to today's event on the networking channel. We're going to be having an event today on the challenging problem of how to figure out a topic for your PhD, issues students face when doing that, and some ideas on how they might be overcome. We're very lucky to have a set of students and recent graduates who have demonstrated very strong success in their PhDs and who are going to give us some advice on this topic, including Dena Markudova, who is a research scientist at Telefonica Research in Spain. She recently obtained her PhD from Politecnico di Torino in Italy. Her research interests lie at the intersection of AI and networking. In her free time, she likes to travel and learn new languages. We also have Matheus Guedes de Andrade, who is a fifth-year PhD candidate at the Manning College of Information and Computer Sciences at UMass Amherst. He works with Professor Don Towsley in various research fields related to quantum networks. In his spare time, Matheus is a guitarist and a music enthusiast. We also have Bill Tao, who is a PhD candidate at the University of Illinois in the United States, whose research lies in the field of wireless networking. Bill is going to defend his thesis in spring of 2025 and is currently on the job market. Sidi Mouhameddeme is a PhD student at the Cheikh Anta Diop University Polytechnic School in Dakar, Senegal. In his spare time, Sidi enjoys playing video games and listening to a diverse range of podcasts. Seye Madounerobert is a postdoc for École Supérieure Polytechnique of Dakar. He recently obtained his PhD in computer science at the Cheikh Anta Diop University of Dakar in Senegal and Sorbonne University in France. His research focuses primarily on the Internet of Things, computer modeling, and embedded systems. And we have Alexandros Stoltidis, who is a second-year PhD candidate jointly affiliated with Sorbonne University and the University of Thessaly. He is advised by professors Serge Fedida and Caracas Antaniosis. His research focuses on 5G and beyond cellular networks. Before we start, we want to mention that the networking channel is a series of talks which happen every 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, we're going to have an event on the challenges and opportunities of distributed learning and how these ideas apply to computer systems. So with that, we're going to start the event today. We're planning to make this a very informal discussion. We want to make it interactive, and you, the audience, can help us out by asking questions. There's a Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. You can also enable closed captions if that's helpful for you to see what is being said transcribed in text on your screen. And there's an option to translate our spoken words there into other languages as well. So I'm going to turn things over to Edmundo, who's going to kick off our panel.
So thanks very much, Matt. And we are very lucky to have a wonderful set of students, senior students, and people who just graduated and that can bring their experience to you all. So please ask questions. And the first question we are going to ask, it's of course is the title of the panel, what are kind of problems you encounter while you're trying to find a topic, if your friend found only any topic. And I would like to start with Dena. And before we start, I pass the voice to Matt, who is going to talk about the poll we're going to ask to you, audience, while the speakers are talking. Okay, Matt, please.
Yes, thank you. So we have a poll where we would like to ask you, the audience, some questions about what things were like during your PhD. If you did a PhD, or if you're in the middle of a PhD or just started a PhD, what some of your thoughts are. Because doing a PhD may be challenging. So if you look in the chat feature at the bottom of your screen, there's a link to a poll. If you don't mind clicking on that and saying your experience, there's kind of 4 different options there. If you can kind of click on what your option is, what best kind of matches with your experience, that would be great. And if the poll doesn't work, if you could post a message so we can fix it, that would be great. But that would be very helpful. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So please, Dena, can you start?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having us here and for introducing us. Well, talking in broad terms about problems I encountered in my PhD and related to the topic, well, I started my PhD at the end of 2019, and so we all know what happened in 2020. COVID came, which brought a lot of challenges for all of us, of course. But I started my topic actually with, it was a project with Cisco, so an industry partner, because actually in Europe, it's kind of the professor and the PhD school that helps you with the topic, sometimes even gives you or hires you to research on a certain topic. So we were supposed to make this research for them, which was related with video conferencing applications. So this was great. When COVID came, they kind of, you know, what happened with companies, everybody started to repivot. So this project wasn't like the greatest priority. But luckily, it was about video conferencing applications. So this exploded. You know, we could do a lot of network measurements, and this was very, very interesting. But we, as a research group, and me, we had to, you know, adapt, repivot, see what we can do about this project, how we can do it now that, you know, because of COVID, the partnership was kind of, it was not the same anymore. And so we had this kind of challenge to see what we would continue working on.
So thanks a lot, Dena. Who would like to join? Perhaps Bill would like to. The order is in my screen, so.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. So again, thanks for the introduction, and I mean, it is what PhD is. Everyone face problem like all the time. If you're not facing any problems, either you're a genius or you don't think that those are problems. So for me, you know, I kind of have a similar story. I started my PhD right in the middle of COVID, so I have to spend the early like years of my PhD like kind of being isolated. But I guess that is not the biggest challenging for me. For me, the biggest challenge is like this kind of like a lack of like self-confidence, you know, like in the very beginning, I feel like, you know, my projects are like so easy. Can I really like make a paper out of this? I believe this is not just myself. I believe like everyone feels like this sometime. But but to be honest, back then I didn't have a very good solution. I was just keep telling myself, you know, Bill, if you don't submit this, you're not gonna submit anything. So you better just do this in anyways. But I guess now I look back to it, I feel that, you know, nothing is like super easy. You know, you always start from like something that you think is very easy, and then you kind of like develop out of it. This is like, I guess this is how things work. But yeah, yeah. I mean, in the very beginning of my PhD, I was like not having much like like a confidence in myself. But I guess I kind of like developed on that as I built my research. So yeah.
Thank you. And Alex, you would like to join? The order is in my screen, so I get to you all.
Firstly, thank you for the introduction. I haven't encountered a specific problem regarding my PhD, to be exact, but I've encountered problems with myself, I would say, because I've begun to be a little bit arrogant and a little bit overconfident on myself. And I thought that I would find the best idea, the most groundbreaking idea, which if you discuss your ideas with your supervisors or your friends, you end up reinventing the wheel actually. So it's not that groundbreaking of an idea. And a huge part of me was that I lacked a lot of experience. So I think I've solved this problem. I have it currently to a lesser extent, but listening to your supervisors is a good thing, and also not being that confident at the beginning of your PhD is also good.
Thanks a lot. Well, Sidi, can you?
Hello, thank you for everything. And as Alex said, For now, I haven't had a lot of difficulties, but to me, the problem is about finding a good topic. And here you have the feeling that everything is already covered. You think that you have an idea, a great idea to do some research on. But if you search or browse a little bit, you see that there is someone else in another country who already did everything about it, you know. So you have to, the difficulty to me is to take something from China or from France and try to adapt it to your country. Like here in Africa, we are not at the same level. So when you think about something here that might change the things, it's already like pushed to the limit in another country. So when you submit a topic about a problem that you have here, and the supervisor of the, let's say he's coming from China, if you say that you have a specific problem about network or something, he can say that the topic is not relevant because there they don't have those difficulties. I don't know if you get me. And
Yes.
apart from that, we have I also had some problem with finding a good topic. You know, depend of who is supervising you. The topic has to be more precise, so you have to give a lot of suggestion, like and yeah, in general, that's my problems.
Robert?
Yes, thank you for the presentation. So, for myself, the main problem I had, and I think most students that goes through engineering program and wants to do PhD after have the same problem. And for myself, I was working on a end of cycle document, and in that document, I was working on the main thing of the main subject of the work was to do a tool that could permit people to talk without having mobile network. So I did it in my final year, and when I was done, I wanted to go further and do it as a thesis program. But if you know, the initial problem was that this topic was originally intended for a final year engineering project. So the goal was simple as an engineer, but when I go to want to do it as a research program, the main problem I had with my two supervisors was to say, is this topic a research topic? And if it's not, we have to find the way to turn it into a way that this topic could fit a research topic. So this was the main problem I had, and we had months and months talking about that, how to turn it into a good topic. And finally, I had to turn it into a modelization problem with architectural solution in networking. And that was mainly the first and the most biggest problem I had in my first years. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Robert. And then Matheus?
Oh, yeah, thank you for the introduction. It's wonderful to be with you here today. I guess one problem I faced in the beginning was one of the projects I was assigned was very hard, and it took me a long time to really envision how to do research on it, because at some point I thought it was intractable to solve the problem, but I guess that's natural. I think you need to take some time to really think and see what your research is all about and understand the ways that you can progress towards the goal of writing a dissertation. And I really think it is a process. It's not something that happens overnight. It's not something that you're going to have figured out in the beginning. And I think it's one of the main PhD problems. You need to train yourself to be able to see the ways to progress in research. And I think that that is a problem itself that we need to learn to solve.
Thank you, Matheus. And do we have enough answers, Math, for the polls? Yes, that.
Yeah, I think so. So here's the results. We can see that everybody who replied had at least some problems during their PhD. Um, some people had only a little problems. Some people had some. Most people said they had many problems. So it seems like doing a PhD is, in fact, a challenging undertaking, and there's definitely issues that people face when doing it.
And it's interesting. There is no one that said no problems, so we keep the polls open until the end. And what are the the biggest? How do you know that you are ready? So, in fact, you guys can ask questions for each other. No, don't be shy. And we would like also the audience to use the question and answer button to ask questions. We ask questions for the students, whatever you want. So that will be very nice. So, okay. So, how do you know that you are ready? What sources do you have for to use for papers? Do you have problems with the literature? So tell me about that. Who would like to to mention? So now you guys are alone.
Maybe I can.
Okay,
start.
go ahead.
Well, I think that how do you know you're ready, that you found a good problem, is it's a complex answer. It has a complex answer. I think that first, of course, you want to see in the literature that no one has never done, something similar to what you're doing to some extent. And if so, do your idea really differs somehow from what people have done in the past? I think that when we talk about a whole thesis, I think that hopefully by the time, if you are able to publish a couple of papers before writing it, I think that the community will tell you maybe a little bit on how, if the direction is right or wrong, I would say. And I also think that there's a major part in or advisor to figuring it out and telling you whether or not you're ready, and how the further research looks.
Would like to join?
Maybe I can join.
Hey.
Yeah, I completely agree that in the beginning, the supervisor is the most important person here. Supervisor or even a postdoc that is in your lab, someone who is helping you, because they know the field and the literature much more than you. So you can read all you want, but sometimes you may not even be able to understand if there is a delta to what you're trying to solve with what is out there. And we all know how cumbersome it is to read many papers. This at least has been the most hated part for me during my PhD. Luckily, now we have more tools at our disposal that can help us read papers more effectively, ChatGPT. But yeah, I think that here the supervisor's role is crucial because they know the field. So they can tell you whether the problem is important or not. At least this question they can answer for you.
Yeah, I completely agree with them. I guess one important point I want to add though is I think I'm always saying this: have more confidence in yourself. Basically, even if you don't know if a paper is ready, it doesn't hurt to submit to a conference to check what the committee thinks. It's not guaranteed that even if you think it's ready, it's not guaranteed that the paper will get in. But what's guaranteed is if you don't submit it, it will never get in. So just and also like the deadlines is a good way to kind of like push yourself to like formalize your work, to do all the evaluation that is required, and to like and also like writing the paper itself helps you like think in a more formal and more like organized way about your ideas and about what's the delta you're trying to build. And yeah, I think of course, yeah, you have to, especially like for the first like one or two papers that you have, you should always ask your advisor what he thinks or she thinks about your contribution and how significant it is. But yeah, you'll hear me adding this point a lot today. Be confident in yourself, because I find that a lot of me myself and a lot of my colleagues, we could use more confidence. Yeah.
Yeah, to go in the way of Bill. My supervisor was always telling me, I will try to answer this question of when do you know you're ready. My supervisor was telling me, in the start of the PhD, every time when we have meetings, he was setting up the meetings. He was telling what we will have to talk about during the meetings, and he was telling me the day you'll set up the meetings yourself and drive it through, you will know that you're ready to go across the PhD and finish it yourself. So you have to have, like Bill said, a lot of confidence, because you have to take a lot of take back, and so, okay, now it's my PhD, I understand the topic, now I will drive the work myself, and just take the supervisor to help and just get me back to the right way. So that's when you know you're okay.
For me to know if you found the correct direction is to ask yourself a few questions. The first question is, do you actually solve any problems with what you found? The second question is, do you know if those solutions are better than the rest of the literature? And if you can answer to both yes, the other question is it really necessary to implement the solution to a problem? Will it affect the field? If you have both of these questions to yes, then you can discuss it with your supervisor and see how you can move forward.
Anyone else? Sidi?
For me, I'm still in the pipeline, so I don't have a lot of experience in that domain. I'm still in the pipeline of the student as a PhD student, so I will just take advice from you all and try to apply that in my work. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. And
Okay.
I guess we have a question, Matt. Could you, from the audience?
Yeah, there's a question. In fact, we have two questions from the audience. Let me do this one first. So there's an audience question saying that they're facing a problem that their field of research is different than what they did in their master's degree. So they're entering a new field. And also they're having some difficulty because their supervisor gave them some papers to read, and the paper they're reading is different than their supervisor's suggestions. So I guess a question for the panel is, is there a way to kind of, deal with situations where the direction you're interested in is different from your advisors, or what if your advisor wants you to go in a direction that, doesn't match your interests or doesn't match your expertise? Do you have any ideas on kind of how to deal with that situation? And anyone can start, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. I guess I can start on this then. Yeah, so I always believe that personal interest is the only thing that can drive you through your PhD, that can drive you through your research, because research is a lot of work, sometimes even like very dull, very repetitive. So I have like basically two suggestions here. So first of all, of course, like if your supervisor suggests you to go on a direction, he has some reason or she has some reasons to it. So instead of just saying, I'm not interested in this field, maybe you should kind of like try to know the field like a little bit more, because I guess my personal experience is that, sometimes I'm not interested in something just because I don't know it enough. And if you know like what problem people are solving in this new field, you might find yourself interested in these like other field as well. It's very rarely the case that I see somebody who's like, I'm only interested in this one subfield of like, I'm only interested in networking. I'm not interested in security at all, or like I'm not interested in machine learning at all. This is not generally not the case. So that being said, one thing you can also try is to like try to find if there's some like overlap you know, like you can pivot both your advisor's direction and your personal interest a bit to make them overlap. There's a lot of like what you call like interdisciplinary research going on in computer science. You know, you can at this point you can combine almost anything together. You know, there's like security plus networking, you know, ML plus HCI, whatever. You can also do like networking plus theory. Maybe you can find something. And I think in the very end, if you really don't think that you can find any common interest here, I would suggest you to find something to do that you're interested in instead of sticking into something you're not interested in, because you need a lot of motivation to go through all the research work. And I mean, personally, if I'm not interested in the research I'm doing, I cannot see myself going through this. So yeah, I think definitely never disregard your personal interest, because that's the most important factor that can move you forward when you face problems.
That's a very good point, and I emphasize that to the audience. If you don't like what you're doing, most likely you're not succeed, because it requires a lot of work. So what you said is very important. Yes, and anyone else would like to add to the question of it?
Yeah, I'd like to say something. So the fact that your field of research is completely different than what you did in your master's, I think this happens to a lot of people. Nobody is doing a PhD on the very same thing that they studied, so it's completely normal. And don't be afraid to take the time to study. Studying hasn't stopped. It's gonna be going on throughout your whole PhD and your whole life. So I was doing courses, first like mandatory courses that we had, of course, but also Coursera, things like that for topics that I was interested in, and this helped me tremendously. And also, like, how do you know if a paper you're reading is good? I would say look at the venue that it was published in. This is something important to know. What are the good venues you need your supervisor again, but also depends on the field, because for example, for AI research now, papers are coming on arXiv every day. So here, if you're looking for the venue, you're kind of late. So I think you're fine. You also don't need to read all the papers in the world to start doing something, and what your supervisor is suggesting could be more than enough.
We also like to add to that?
I'd like to add a small point to this, that actually doing a different field in your master, it might be a benefit, not just like a disadvantage, because it gives you like a different aspect of viewing things. Like me personally, I did physics in my undergrad and I switched to computer science, and I find that the physics knowledge from my undergrad helped me a lot in shaping my research and solving problems. So don't just be disappointed because you're doing a totally different field in your PhD. Maybe it will work out even better than if you're doing the same field all the time.
I just want to add something. Okay. I think that the question on whether or not a paper is good, it's super hard to answer, and it's not something that I guess sometimes papers are good initially and they turn bad, and it takes a lot of time to get a gist of what is a good paper. And to me, the only way you can do that is, one, reading a lot of papers in the field, and that takes some time, but you have to do it whenever you're starting in a new field. You have to spend some time catching up with the literature and learning all the background knowledge you need. And then the second is try to write a paper yourself too. And then you will see where you struggle. You see, the difficulties, and you see where you did good, where you did bad. And I think that will help you a lot to develop this sort of taste or feeling to read a paper and figure it out whether it's good or bad. I just want to add another thing is, I think that if your advisor, sometimes when your advisor gives you something to read, you may think it's a bad paper, but maybe the only thing you need to do is to go over it to make sure you understand everything that is said there, because if he gave it to you, there is a reason why. So I think that's important.
Yeah, what you mentioned is one point that I'd like to stress here is write something. It really found it really helpful when you write your ideas to discuss it, your advisor, etc. Like you said, it's very important to that. And we have another question here. Matt, can you read? My screen is very small. Would you could you read the second question?
Yeah. This is another really interesting question. It's about would you all be willing to describe the best and worst moments during your PhD? What are the absolute best and absolute worst moments? And maybe, could you talk about how you kind of overcame the worst? I know this is kind of a tricky question, but or did you see other people having, kind of significant issues in either direction? Maybe if you could kind of talk about that, that would be great.
And Matt, I'd like to add to that question is, did you feel that the PhD was ups and down all the time, or more smooth, or just down? So please comment. Robert, would like to start?
Yeah,
or Alex?
I would like to start, but just I would like to just come in the previous question, and after I go my answer, I do my answer for the next one. Okay. So for the question of the topic that interests you in your work, I have a little solution that I use sometimes. So my solution is that beyond the field, whether it's machine learning, networking, or whatever, I think that we should try to recontextualize the work within a subject or a theme that aligns with what interests you. For example, I might have a topic on optimizing or integrating measurement from 5G quality of optical fiber networks. And to make it more engaging for me, I could turn it into a case study on, for example, if I like gaming, I turn it onto a case study on online gaming. And for instance, what I want to do is to see if my measurements align with the demands of an average gamer, for example. So the work I will do will have an direct impact on something that interests me. So I would have the sensation of doing something that will suit or interest some things that I like. That's the solution I can give. And for my thesis, I think the best moment for my thesis was the day I was defending my thesis. Because it's when after all the years you work, the best moment is when everything is done. I didn't have a better sensation than this day, and I think the worst moment for me is when I started to write the thesis, because the problem I had is when you do the work the 2 first years, you have a lot of results, you have a lot of documents that you write, but when you are in front of the paper and you have to start to write, you don't know how to exactly configure everything, and you want to make everything in the paper, but sometimes everything can fit in the paper, and it's another a new problem that you have writing the papers. I think that was the worst moment for me in my thesis.
Who will be next?
I can continue if you want. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, no problem.
No. I mean, I was reminiscing on the best and worst moments. The best moment, I wouldn't say it's a moment. It was like a feeling. I mean, the best things that were happening for me is my memories going to the office, hanging out with other PhD students, us having coffee, or us playing. We had this game that we played where we had a trash can put up on the wall, and we were playing like trash ball, we called it. So this kind of like everyday mundane moments that we had in the office. And the worst moment is, I would say, when I was in the end of my second year and starting my third year. So in Italy, the PhD is 3 years, but actually you take a little bit more because you start a little bit earlier, then you finish a little bit later, but like officially it's 3 years. And after my second year, we kind of like a little bit exhausted the topics and the research we were doing. We were kind of at an impasse, and I wanted to do something in my third year. First, that was really my own, because before I was working a lot with other students, which was great, amazing, but I wanted to have like my own baby. And then it was something that was supposed to also go together with what I had previously done. So it's like a unified topic. So it was actually kind of like choosing a thesis topic, but a little bit towards the end. And this was like hard. It was very hard. But I tried to optimize for a few things here, which I think can go into like the advice for choosing the topics, which is something that I would like, something new that I would like to learn. So for example, I tried to learn reinforcement learning, and because it made sense for a problem that I had. An interesting problem that is good to solve. So at this point, I already knew the literature on the topic, so I could say that this could be something interesting that, I mean, for the for the literature and for improving the field. And then something that I already had available. So I had some data available. I had some knowledge on this topic and so on. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Alex, you.
For me, the best feeling you can have when you're doing the PhD is the moment you publish your first paper, or the moment you get your first citation, because you feel like you affect the rest of the field some way. The other thing is when you work on something you actually really like, a topic you really like, and you can get into it for a lot of hours and not get tired. That's another good feeling. For me, the worst feeling is when I have to write the paper and not the practical stuff, the just writing. I get extremely bored by this stuff, so that's the worst point of the PhD.
And what do you recommend when you start writing and you have difficulty? What do you recommend for this students?
I recommend you have already read a lot of other papers to know exactly how you write a paper, and take your time. And also ask for your colleagues to read it to see if they have feedback on it, or your supervisor. That's the best solution you can have, because you get tired when you read it many times yourself.
Yeah, it's very important, and help the colleagues reading. It's very important as well. And Sidi, you are in a bad moment or in a good moment?
No, I am actually in a good moment, but I wanted to add, as a student, since I'm not done yet, the best moment are when you give something that you have, like your research, to your supervisor, and he will never say that it's good, but he has nothing to say. When he has nothing to say, you know that it's good, but he's never going to say that to you. So you know that you can go to the next step. And the worst to me is when he asks you to rewrite everything without even telling you where is the problem, because it's up to you to find the problem. It's part of the job. It's up to you to find what you have to rephrase, stuff like that, and then you commit it. And if he has nothing to say, then you can feel good and go to the next step. To me, actually, it's something that's really good to me.
That's good. So you went through bad moments before, or you're just in a good moment? See, you were in a bad moment.
I'm experiencing the bad moment because I'm sending my paper and I get it back with a lot of comments. So I have to fix everything and send it back. Maybe some days.
Well, everyone comment on that? Who would like to add something?
I can add something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that a PhD is a very complex function that it's not concave nor convex, has many local minima and local maxima. But and I think I can pinpoint at least some of my local minima and local maxima. I think one of the best things for my PhD is when I felt that I could leave some sort of legacy. There was this we have a event here at UMass where we talk to undergrads about research, and I was talking to them about quantum networking, which is my field of research. And then I don't know, months go by. The next semester, one of the students that went to this a sort of panel, I ran into him during lunch, and then he told me that he decided to take a class in quantum information just because he met me that day. And to me, I think that's quite of a rewarding feeling to have in your PhD, to be honest. I also think that that's why we get so happy whenever we get our research published and we see citations coming up, because I think you feel you are able to leave a legacy out of your work. I would say that I actually think I have a global minima, to be honest, and I think it goes along a little bit with what Dena said. I think that I have a theory that here, at least in UMass, whenever you reach, or in my group, whenever you reach your third year, something very crazy will happen to you. I think I don't know if it's burnout, I don't know what it is, but I think that your mind goes astray into a very weird place where you're kind of sick of what you're doing. You know, there's so much stuff to do left, so many projects you want to finish, so many things you want to do, and then they might not work, and then you realize how much effort you need to put to finish. But then, and I think that that's really something that every PhD goes through, and you need to figure it out how to balance your life. Honestly speaking, I think academia is tricky sometimes. It asks a lot of things from you, and you need to be able to say no sometimes and prioritize things that are gonna make you feel well. That you need to have some sort of a healthy relationship with your PhD, something that is sustainable. It's not a sprint, right? It's more like a marathon. So I think that was the worst.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with Matheus' theory about local maximum and local minimum. So, I mean, me personally, for example, when I'm like doing experiment to write a paper, I'm like always like being bipolar. So whenever like the experiment I design works, I'm happy, and whenever the result is not what I expect, I'm very unhappy. And you know, this whole thing just makes me like very unhappy in the whole process because I'm being painful and bipolar. And after I'm done with this, now I'm happy because I can have like maybe like a few weeks like rest without like worrying about my research. So yeah, I think I mean PhD is like, for me it's sort of like a roller coaster. You know, you never know you don't even know what's happening next minute. You know, maybe your experiment goes super well, super fluent, or maybe nothing works and you have to like take your whole system apart and debug every component one by one. But I guess in the end, what drives me forward is that I have faith in my theory that what my idea should work, and I want everyone to see it. That this is what I'm interested in, and I believe it will work, and I want all of you to see it working. So I guess yeah, that's like that's kind of like faith is what like makes me like keep going back to my experiment to like debug and to trying to improve. So yeah, I think that's like kind of, I mean, in the end, like PhD it's a very turbulent journey, and you have a lot of ups and downs.
None of you guys mentioned afraid of competition in other groups doing the same stuff. Did they ever worry that to you? I guess Robert mentioned something like that, if I'm not, but you guys didn't talk much about that. That should something that should people worry or not, or?
So I think at least like in networking, I mean, choosing a good direction is very, very important. you know, because like sometimes like a lot of things has been done and the space for improvement is limited. But as far as I see, I think networking is a generally very interesting field, and there's a lot of things to explore. And if you are like running into somebody else, that probably means that you are not your field of research is still not very well defined, and you can like narrow it down a little bit. So what happens, like for example for me, is like I was like doing some generic like localization problem, and I see it has been done before, but then I like kind of like narrow my scenario to like just like trying to like improve the trying to improve the signal model of the localization. Anyways, but now nobody does it. So, and if we're talking about like neighboring groups or even people from inside my group, to some extent, you know, none of us are like doing the exact same thing. So I'm more worried that my ideas won't work than I'm worried that somebody will do the same thing as I do and do it before me.
Okay, Matt, do you have some other questions for the others? You had another poll, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. One other thing we could do is, let's see, we have a second poll question we would like to ask the audience. What problems did you encounter when you were trying to choose a PhD topic? So if you, in the audience, if you did a PhD or you're currently doing a PhD, if you could kind of tell us what kind of questions you encountered, you're able to choose multiple options here if multiple of these categories pertain to you. And when you click, you can also type in comments underneath if you'd like to do that. So we don't have results yet. These are just kind of a few people have clicked on it, but we'd be interested to hear any other. If you could click and answer, that would be very helpful. We'll post the link in the chat again for this. Yeah, thank you.
And I have a question for you guys. Did you ever consider in, let's say, your advisor thinks one path is not good, but you believe in that path? That situation ever happened to you? Did you recommend to follow anyway or to discuss more, or that's not an issue? Would anyone like to talk about it? I think it was not an issue. Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead.
maybe I can comment on that. I mean, I've never faced that issue before,
Uh-huh.
and I think I'm lucky because I haven't faced that issue before somehow. But I think that's a very fine line. I think that it's I think you need to have some sort of approach to determine how much effort and time you should put to make sure that the idea works or not. If that's a 2-year long project, then I would say it's too tricky for you to try to pull that out, you know, just go by yourself and try to make it work, given their advisor told you it's probably not worth trying. But if it's something that you could try in a month or 2 months, maybe it's something you should pursue after all, because maybe sometimes that's when the best research happens, right? You might think that something it's your advisor may think something it's not actually won't work, and you can prove to him that he was wrong, and that can be, you know, maybe the best paper of your PhD. It could happen that way. So I think you need to have a sort of a rational approach towards this. A little bit of emotion to make sure that if you think you just, you know, do it no matter what. But then, yeah, I don't think if it's a very long idea, it can be tricky to deploy right in.
Yeah, one thing I would like to add to that is I think we're all reasonable person, or at least I think it's necessary to be reasonable, you know. For me, even if I mean, personally, I don't know if I cannot remember if my advisor just tell me, hey, something wouldn't work. But what we try to do is like we all try to be reasonable. You cannot just like walk up like your advisor is not supposed to just, you know, tell you, oh, I don't think this will work without telling you why, right? And you and also you're not supposed to just tell advisor, oh, I don't believe you, I think it will work. Like I think what's important is like there needs to be a discussion of like why you think this is important, you know, why you think it will work. Do you have any where does this confidence come from, and like what risk you're taking. And I feel like in my case, it's like, you know, I discussed with my advisor, and sometimes we have to pivot my research a bit to, you know, maybe I have a good theory, but we need to try to find a good scenario where I can apply my theory, or where I can find the right place where this system design is supposed to be there. And it's always important to keep the discussion open. It's not, I think this is not about like a power game of one must follow the other, because I mean, you and your advisor are both like kind of like independent people. It's not like you're his like children or something. So I think the most important thing is to be reasonable and to keep the discussion open. And both of you, I mean, maybe you like as the student, maybe more, like you both can learn from this discussion. Like you can receive like other people's thoughts, and maybe you have missed something, or maybe your advisor could totally have missed something as well. I mean, he or she is not a perfect person, you know. So yeah, don't shut the door. Just let know other people's reason, and I think that's the only way you can make the best decision.
Anyone else would like to add something? If not, what about networking, working with others in your group and working alone? Do you have anything? Would working with other people at the beginning help you to find a topic, or do you prefer to pursue a topic alone? Can you comment on that? I guess Alex had something to say about it, right?
I mean, working with other people is, I think, a great thing, especially when you discuss ideas. And if you have a similar or almost similar topic, you can trade ideas and see how they go. Even if it's from another field, you can broaden your horizons and see what's available in other fields. Maybe you can integrate something from there to your field. So it's a good thing to have a big network, I think.
Robert, go ahead.
Sorry,
Dena. No.
I can add something. So during my PhD, I did both. I did some papers with a colleague, with another PhD student, and I did some papers alone. To mention that at my university, we had a point system where you needed to have an amount of papers, and if you were two PhD students at the same paper, that you would get half the points. So you were incentivized like also to work alone, or rather that somebody is not just like dragging by their PhD with the work of another person. But anyway, I was lucky and I had the chance to do both. I think it's important to experience both. When you work with people, it's so much more interesting. At least for me, the work flows better. You discuss the things, you don't feel stuck. You're not alone with your problems. You're not alone with your computer all day. So this, I think it's very, very important. But it's also important to have something that is your own and that you're proud of, and that you know you are the one that did it and developed the work. So if you get a chance to do both, that's amazing. I think doing the PhD all on your own is very sad for your emotional life, but also not super productive, because you need to talk to people and they will help you to see things, even people you don't think will, from other fields, as Alex mentioned. For example, we were a group, we had like an interdepartmental center. So we sat together in an office, people from telecommunications, from mathematics, from physics, and from computer science, because we were all working on like data science related topics. And we could talk about different things. We could work on papers together, and this was very, very useful.
Sid, do you work with people in this early stage? I guess you are younger, early stage than everyone else,
Yeah.
right? If I recall, or not?
Yeah, for now, I'm just alone. I'm just alone, and I will say my best friend is my supervisor right now because I don't have a lot of people to rely on. And probably within a year, when the thing are getting more serious, I will probably like socialize a lot and probably get some knowledge and advice about how to progress in the PhD.
And
Yeah.
Robert?
Yes, I just wanted to add something that I personally lived is, sometimes when we make our solutions in our labs, we think that we will solve all the problems of the world, and we just want to go to the society and show them what we did. And I personally experienced something is when I finished my work, my supervisor told me not to go directly to the society, and he called a social science, someone from social science and a geographer, because he said that it was important to talk with those kind of people and work with them on the acceptance of the new technologies, because he's telling that sometimes when you go to a certain village or some rural places, people don't accept the technologies like we do in urban areas. So we had to do a work with on that, and it was a very big experience, because for me, just having the technical solutions will have the world, but no, you have to find the technical solutions and talk with some people that work with human beings, and they give you another experience, another kind of science, so that you can mix the two to have a best solution. So for me, it was one of the best experience I had, and from then, everything I do, every solutions I make, I always talk about what would social scientists think about the solutions, to know how to present the solution and make it adapt to the population. So it's very important to have that kind of work.
That's a very nice advice. That's a very interesting thing to discuss. That anyone would like to add something? Okay, people are shy in the audience, I guess. Also, right, Matt? So we keep. I guess, Dena, you had previous advice about the life after the PhD. When do you start thinking about that? Could you start some discussion about that?
Yeah, also one of the lowest points of my PhD when you have to start thinking about life afterwards, are you going to pursue academia? Are you going to go to the industry? So I was really lucky and I got a research job in the industry, which I think is the perfect mix, at least for me. But one trick that I did is that in my PhD thesis committee, I had people from both academia and industry. And actually, one of the people that was in my PhD thesis committee, she's now my manager at my company now. So that's how I got my job. And I think this is a nice trick that you could do together with your supervisor if you're interested to work in some company or some other university. But I feel this is a very tough thing. It's very personal, what you want to do after. And it's even like maybe you do want to go to academia, but the possibilities are not so much. And I feel you just have to keep an open mind and maybe try not to stick with like one option and think about the good things that may come of any kind of career. And nowadays people can change a lot. You can change jobs, you can do different things. So I think it's also like, do not overthink it, and try to find a next step that kind of works for you and is available at the moment. Because we all know that tech is in a little bit of a crisis right now. So I'm also sorry about people who are on the job market at the moment, and hopefully it's picking up.
And unfortunately, I guess we are at the end of the panel, right, Matt? But perhaps we can quickly ask you if you have one sentence of advice to give to the audience, what that would be. One sentence in one shot. Who wants to start with that?
I can try.
Okay.
Keep your mental health and enjoy.
Okay, Alex?
I think find something you actually like and it will go well.
Bill?
I would say keep open-minded and always have faith in yourself. You are the best researcher in your field.
Sidi?
I think you have to read a lot of paper to be able to argue the day you're gonna talk to about your work. So you have to read a lot, have a lot of reference, so you can defend your what you did.
Robert?
So I would say believe in yourself and everything will work fine.
And Matheus? Yeah.
The PhD is ultimately about learning.
Great. So thank you very much. Oh, I guess we are 2 minutes late. And Matt, could you show the results of you still have time to show the results and then we end, or you?
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna pull them up real quick here. So these are the results of the poll. We can see that people had some of these problems that were mentioned, could not find a topic in a reasonable time. Topics I could come up with seemed too hard to pursue. Multiple people had that issue. People had difficulty changing the original topic they were working on for some reason. By far the most common issue mentioned was being afraid not to find something that could lead to a good research path. There was one comment that was kind of mentioned here. In terms of changing the original topic, the challenge was that their advisor left the university, which is definitely a tricky situation to encounter. But
So, Matt, could you end and mention something else? Thank you very much. You're wonderful, and hope what you did will help a lot of people, and the video will be on the web. And Matt, please.
Yeah, it was amazing panel. Thank you all very much for doing such an amazing job. As mentioned, there's going to be a YouTube where this will be put up on YouTube. We also posted a link to the Slack workspace in the chat if you would like to interact with the panelists further, if you have further questions for them. If you yourself have advice for students, we would love to have you post your ideas in the Slack channel as well. And in 2 weeks, we'll have our next event on challenges and opportunities in distributed learning. All events on the networking channel are open to all and free of charge, so please feel free to come and participate, and we'd love to have you in the audience. So thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.